So the first year, I don't even do any research on the river or anything. And so I'm just like, as we're floating down the river, I'm like, holy cow, that is a big rapid. I just go, I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to go sideways in it. So I'm just going to make sure I'm exactly straight with it. And so the boat goes all the way down, and then all the way up, and then all the way down again as I go over the rapid.
Okay.
And me and my buddy were like, whoo! And I was like, wow, that was nuts. So fast forward to the next year. I've got the same buddy, Nick, and our mutual friend in the boat. And I'd read online the people were talking about going to the right side of it. And I couldn't remember, like, I'm like, oh, people are going to the right side of it. Okay, yeah, this, that, the other. I could do that. We just go to the right. And so fast forward to the next year, we come to the same rapid. I try to go to the right of the rock. Now, I don't know if I could have made it that way because of the way everything was right there. I don't actually even know if I could have made it. But the river is really fast. Like, people that don't have a ton of experience on the river, like just the local stuff around here, we don't know what a fast river is around here.
Right. Well, this is spring too, so
everything's
melting.
Spring. I don't know what the CFS is on it, but it's pumping. It's pumping.
And it's one of the steeper rivers in
It's
Oregon.
the most gradient river in, I believe, the U.S.
We'll have to fact check that
We'll have to fact check that one. But you can actually, when you're in the river, you can actually look behind you and you can actually see the slope of the river.
Huh.
It's not flat. You can actually see that it's that much. And
I
so
never looked back when I was in my boat.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna flip somewhere, so I gotta stay.
So basically what happens is I try to go to the right and I try to push forward.
Oh.
I try to push forward to get my boat to the right because there's a corner, and then I got to go around the corner, and then I got to move over in the river. And so I try to, instead of coming backwards and being able to straighten out a lot easier.
Yeah.
I try to go forward, and what happens is I hit this rock. It's a very big rock, sideways. I got it going sideways. And so in a slower river, it might not have been a problem because of how light my boat was, and I might have been able to get out of it. But it's a very fast river, and basically what ends up happening is it's called being bathtubed. Yeah. So I hit the rock.
You got pinned away.
Yes, I hit the rock, and then immediately my boat flips on its side. And so my two buddies in the front of the boat, the water basically sucks them out of the boat and then into the rapids on the right side of it.
On the right side? So the side that... Okay.
Yeah, on the right side. And basically what happens with myself is that the water pulls me in and pulls me underneath the boat for a second. And there's so much water and it's so fast. There's a ton of pressure against me. And I'm against the rock underneath the boat, stuck there momentarily. And so then what ends up happening is eventually the water sucks me underneath the boat to the right, and there was a submerged log in the river right there. And so I end up getting sucked underneath the boat to the right, and I basically am like folded over this log. Basically what ends up happening is I get pulled underneath the boat to the right side there, and I'm like stuck over this log, and there's a log at my waist, and this water's so fast that my head's being pushed like this, and and my feet I'm like pancaked over this log.
Okay.
And
like a taco?
Like a taco, yeah. Like
a hot dog. The dog is the hot dog, and you're the bun?
Yes.
Pretty much like
exactly that. Like that.
Okay.
But eventually what happens is the water just pushes me and I just kind of tumble through the rapids. I'm underwater this whole time. And I tumble through the rapids and eventually my hand or foot hits something and I grab it and then I'm able to get up and out of the water. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was
How
scary.
much time did you have when you hit the rock?
I had
how much time did you
zero.
have to think about it?
Zero.
Like a second before you were in the water?
A second and a half.
A second and a half, and you had water. It already pinned you and flipped you.
Already pinned me. It had already pinned me, flipped me, and my buddies are out of the boat.
Yeah, because a lot of time, like in the slower river, you hear like, oh, you got pinned against a rock, and you have time to do something about it, or like you don't just get flushed out instantly.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
You just got flushed.
There was no.
You got flushed almost.
No, there was no.
And so that means you didn't have life jackets on and all that stuff, or did you have a life jacket on?
I think we were all wearing hip waders.
Yeah.
I was wearing hip waders. I was wearing double knee Carhartts, a sweatshirt, and a Sitka raincoat. And I had...
So you were dry.
So I was... Because it was like kind of sprinkling. It's cold. It's not some nice sunny day. It was cold. Foggy, cold, kind of misting, sprinkly. And so I was... Yeah.
It's a spring at what?
It's
4,000 feet. That river's at 4,000 feet.
It is spring in Eastern Oregon. Yeah.
So you can get whatever weather.
Mm-hmm.
And that water is 39 degrees at that time of year. I think it's like 39 degrees.
It's cold.
So.
It is very cold.
And so you've, all the gear's out. Okay. So you pick up and you're out of the water. Your head is out of the water now.
My head's out of the water, and I crawl up the slippery rocks up to this bank. There's actually some old abandoned railroad tracks right there.
But what were you thinking when your head popped out? When you popped out of the water?
I was just looking for my buddies because I thought that I killed my buddies.
And
that's what I thought.
When did you see them?
I heard my buddy Nick yelling at me to get out of the water. So I
no shit.
Why?
I'm trying, Nick. I'm trying.
Yeah, but I mean he was freaked out about the same thing.
Okay.
And so then
you think his first reaction was, where the hell is Wes?
Probably.
Because he probably saw the other guy. What's his name?
Justin.
So sorry, I had to interject, but
you good.
So you see Nick, he's yelling at you, get out, obviously. Get out of the water.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick. I'm getting out. I'm trying my best.
Yeah. So we get out. The crazy thing is we had all of our backpacks in garbage bags.
Okay.
And for some reason, that makes them float.
Some reason?
Well, there's air in there, obviously, but you'd think, a 40-pound backpack isn't going to be floating.
Oh, I see.
So we actually get our backpacks. So we get...
How'd you do that?
I don't remember.
You literally don't remember?
I know that Justin jumped back in.
Okay.
At one point. And I remember I ran down these railroad tracks. There's abandoned railroad tracks on the side. And I remember I run down and I'm thinking I'm going to jump in and get our Pelican case full of camera gear out. Right. And it was too fast. Couldn't get there. And it was going like the water was pushing it like across the river. From right to left.
So you weren't going to make things worse at that point?
No. We ended up losing, I think, we lost one rifle for sure.
Which at some point I want to dive in there. I want to dive that river, that spot specifically. There's a point I want to see if we can find this wreckage. At some point in my life, I will dive there. Whether it's a scuba dive or a snorkel, I'll train.
It's gonna have to be. I mean, dude, that river gets really low. That river gets really low.
True. So I could probably Go in there late,
Probably just swim
swim in there.
in there.
Yeah, it would be awesome if we could find that rifle or something.
Someone's already got to have picked it up.
Maybe it's because how far is the rock from the boat launch at Minam?
Mile and a half.
And we could walk the railroad tracks down there. We know that.
We definitely could.
I don't know if that's illegal or trespassing.
No, they're abandoned.
They're abandoned. You just go.
Yeah, I think people walk them and fish it all the time.
Someday we'll have to revisit the wreckage.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we'll ever.
And I think the main thing I think about that is I feel really bad because I put my buddies in a bad spot. I was too young and dumb to know what I was doing. And even though I had done it before with one of those buddies, I still feel pretty bad about that.
Yeah.
Because that was super reckless of me. And I mean, yeah, shit happens, but at the same time, I was just super bad decision making on my part. It's my boat. I was a captain. I'm responsible.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a risk. I mean, it's always a risk. Would Nick have, maybe he would have done a little better. Maybe. But he could have done the same thing.
Yeah.
He could have, or something else could have happened later on.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, you're kind of taking that risk. I mean, you do want to trust. You want to trust your hunting partners and the person that's doing. I mean, there's a certain amount of trust.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, what was super good for me is a couple of years later, I got hired by Born and Raised, and Trent, Cody, Trevor, all those guys, they're great at running a boat. Yeah. They've ran boats on the north, the south, and the Coquille and Smith and Elk, and everywhere. They're great at running their boats. And so I learned a lot from them. And actually, I learned how bad of a captain I was, is what I learned. And I was like, oh, I had no freaking business being on that river, is what I learned. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a different level, though. A lot of the time, those guides, they just say, no, you shouldn't be out there at all. And it's like, well, am I going to die out there? A lot of time they'll say, well, probably not. But this scenario, yes, you could have died, obviously. Mm-hmm. Even if you went past that rock, you could have flipped the boat at some other point. I mean, it's not a dangerous river per se, like rapid wise. I mean, it's not super dangerous. I don't think many people die on the river.
No, but so that river specifically, I had to call the Oregon State Police to report a boating accident. So I called Oregon State Police, called it in, and I told them that we lost a rifle. And then the next day, OSP officer floated the river. So the next day, an OSP officer floated the river, and the boat, to tell you how fast the river was, I don't remember the model of my boat, but it was a Clackacraft.
Yeah, it was a 1992 Clackacraft that you painted blue.
Yeah. Dude, that thing was sweet. I actually, it was an old fiberglass boat. I love that boat. The boat was awesome.
It was a slug. It was an absolute slug.
I love that boat.
It was an absolute slug.
I love that boat. Regardless, the entire boat was gone. Yeah. And it wasn't because it flipped back up and floated down the river. It was because the river literally...
It probably tore it up, and then it just eventually came off the rock.
Probably. But so the officer said, or the trooper said, no, there's no boat there. I didn't see your gun. Pelican case is gone. Somebody somewhere picked up a floating Pelican case with at least 10 grand if not more, of camera gear.
It would have been cool to have a little tracker on that to see where that ended up. How far did it make it?
Yeah.
On all that stuff. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
And then it could have, I mean, because that would have, it goes up into where?
I think it hits the John Day.
Does it hit the John Day?
I think it hits the John Day, and then it hits.
Goes out to the Columbia.
Yeah.
But you're going to hit a dam eventually, I guess.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have made it that far.
No.
Okay, so I got to get back. We didn't really. You tried to jump in, but it was too far. Or Justin jumped in.
I believe Justin jumped in, and I believe we all were able to like reach our backpacks. So we were able to reach our backpacks. Then I remember that's the coldest I've ever been.
Yeah.
And
so you reach your backpacks.
Reach our backpacks, get our backpacks up onto the tracks, the railroad tracks, and I remember trying to take my clothes off, and I remember trying to take. I remember taking my raincoat off, taking my my Carhartts off, and I remember losing dexterity in my fingers
within 5 minutes.
Oh yeah. And I remember not being able to control my body because it was convulsing. I remember just being like this. I was like I couldn't stop doing that.
Oh man.
Eventually, we get all of our clothes off and into new clothes because we had all of our hunting clothes in our backpacks, and so we all got warm pretty quickly. I lost.
But what was the...
No, you know what? The trooper actually picked up a cooler of ours.
Oh.
And it had my boots in it.
Huh.
But I didn't have any boots for the hike out.
Oh.
So I had hip waders and I had Crocs. And actually, they weren't Crocs, they were Gators. So they don't even have the four-wheel drive switch.
Oh, I see.
So I...
a little strap on the back?
A little strap. I didn't have the four-wheel drive strap.
Key.
So yeah, we end up just putting our new clothes on and hiking out.
So within like 10 minutes, you're saying you guys had clothes on, and you said we're not going to die. When was the point where you're like, I'm not going to die? When you got when you got out of the water?
Yes.
You said I'm fine.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, because if worse came to worse, we could have started a fire right there. We could have done all those things. We were not. We were all safe. We were all on the bank. If we had to, we could have just walked out, and we would have been very effing cold. But we wouldn't have died hypothermic wise at that point. But it was very hard
to get out.
It was very cold. Very freaking cold.
How was the morale of the group?
Low.
Who were you guys even talking, or no?
I think.
What do you remember of those conversations? Those first, you remember Nick yelling at you, "Get out of the water."
Yeah.
What else do you remember from?
I don't blame him for that. I mean, I would have. Yeah.
But what after that? Do you remember like specific things that like?
No, I remember we stayed at Mike Crawford's house.
In the moment. Because like I remember when you fell into that log and twisted your leg, I remember saying, "What are you doing?"
No, I don't. It's been too long.
But it's too much of a.
I don't. Yeah, I don't remember that.
I wonder if that's.
I remember feeling like I almost killed my buddies. That's what I remember.
You just felt it.
Yeah, and I just remember being happy that I didn't kill them. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And they could have been mad, and I would have been okay with them being mad because they weren't dead.
Right. I wonder if it's just like a shock of the, number one, you're freezing cold, so you're not really thinking, probably you're just thinking get warm. And those moments you can black out. You can kind of black out.
Actually, I'm not glad we wrecked. I'm glad we wrecked where we did, though, because if we wouldn't have had those tracks to walk out on, that would have freaking sucked. It is straight vertical
the whole
and
way.
the whole way
You almost
back.
can't. You almost in some areas you can't even. You can't walk the bank like near the banks.
No.
Because they're just draining huge drainages in. Yeah, just straight down.
Yeah.
Cliff sides, all that.
Cliffs.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't imagine being in farther.
Yeah.
Without shoes. Basically.
Yeah.
Basically without shoes.
Yeah.
So you guys didn't say anything on the way on the railroad tracks?
I remember my phone didn't work because my phone was wet.
Oh. Before everything was waterproof.
Yeah, before all that. We had a hard time getting a hold of people. I remember pulling back into Mike Crawford's house without a boat on my trailer. I do remember that. And I remember Mike being surprised to see us because he wasn't supposed to see us for like 3 days. And we pulled back in without a boat.
Without calling him?
Yeah.
Oh, man. What'd he say? That would be a weird...
What are you guys doing? I just remember being like, what? And we were like, I was like, yeah, I dumped it.
Yeah. Nothing else you can say.
No.
You guys had a dinner and that was it?
Had dinner, slept there, woke up the next morning. Well...
It's one of those moments where you look back but it's exactly what we're talking about. Like, you're pushing the limits.
It was. And I have conquered that fear, if you will, of that river. I've gone back and floated it with you and Trent and Cody.
And we had our own. I had my own issues floating it. I mean,
yeah.
They're just stupid stuff that can happen out there.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, I just that edge, that line is because I want to go back there and do it.
I did too. I'll go back. I'll go over Red Rock too again. I mean, we don't need to because that's not where we put in anymore. We have a different put in for it, but for sure,